Hey, good morning, folks. Early morning, getting ready to go to work. Sun's not even up. They just move the clock forward. I wish they just keep it the same. Anyhow, that's okay. Want to talk about the barley, about it being Aviv and whether or not the month of Nisan has started. Okay. If we look on a calendar, a Jewish calendar, let me open this up over here. Give me a second. If we look at a Jewish calendar, and this is a date converter, it tells us today that the 11th is the first day of Adar 2. What's an Adar 2? Well, Adar is a month on the Jewish calendar. You won't find that in the Bible. Most of the names of the months were given in Babylon during the exile. Before that, there really weren't names to month. There was only one name to a month, and that name was more of a description. What happens, and I had a comment on a video the other day that you can't trust the calendar. The calendar's off. The only thing you can trust is the signs in the heavens. The only problem with that, for the 17, 18 years I've been doing this, not videos, but I've been, actively watching. The problem has been that every time you turn around, there's an eclipse, something going on in the skies, an alignment of planets, and everybody's like, "Oh, there's a rapture." But you can't put a verse to it other than some generic verses. And it's funny. This person used Genesis 1:14, that the sun and basically, and this is a paraphrase, that the sun and the moon are for signs and seasons. See there, that's what it is. And I'm like, well, that word seasons is moed. It's the appointed time. That's the purpose of the sun and the moon, is to set the appointed times of the Lord. And just as Messiah fulfilled the spring feast days, he's going to fulfill the fall feast days. The problem is it's not Adar 2, it would be Nisan. The question is, has it started? And that comes from the barley. But the first of the month is not here yet, because in order for the first of the month to be here, the new moon has to be spotted. It has not. Every month, the new moon must be spotted. For this month, it has not. So God does things a little differently. And if you understand how God's calendar works, you can figure it out quite easily. The problem is that some time ago, Israel had help in standardizing their calendar, and that help didn't come from God. It came from a person that many believe to be a saint, Saint Constantine. Well, if he's a saint, it ain't for God; it's for somebody else. Maybe he has a different God. Okay. That's how the Jewish calendar got standardized. It's not God's calendar. So let's open up our Bibles here. We're going to look in Deuteronomy. There are two calendars. I know, oh my goodness, everybody's teaching, no, there's one calendar, God changed it. Well, God doesn't change. All right. He does not. So observe the month of Abib and keep the Passover to the Lord your God. During the month of Abib, the Lord your God brought you out of Egypt by night. So if you're keeping the Passover, we know this month is in the spring. Okay, it's when Passover is. Um, but let's look at this Abib, and then I'm going to talk about the calendar just for a little bit. I know I've done this so many times. Um, Again, before pre-Babylon, this is the only name for a month that you will find in Scripture, and it's more of a description than it is a name. Because when we pull up Abib, fresh young barley ears, barley, the month of ear forming, greening of the crop, growing green Abib, the month of Exodus and Passover. So in order for this month to start, the barley has to be almost ripe. Well, after Passover, which Messiah was crucified on, you have the Feast of Unleavened Bread when he was in the grave or the tomb. And then you have the Feast of Firstfruits where he arose. Messiah is the firstfruits to the resurrection of life. And on the Feast of Firstfruits, you would take a sheaf of barley and wave it in the temple before God. If you don't have the first fruits, you can't do that. There's a reason why God does the things he does. That's why this month doesn't start until the barley is almost Aviv. Now, just real quick, just to combat what I believe is bad teaching, a lot of people are pointing to Exodus 12 and say, This month shall be the beginning of months. Notice it says beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. There are 2 new years. Speak to, and so anything in the Bible before this, okay, and this is where it changed. Tishri, the month of Rosh Hashanah, the Feast of Trumpets, would have been the first month up until this point. So anything in Genesis or before this in Exodus, if you get a number for a month, you're going to have to change it, okay, because he added a second calendar. This is the beginning of months. After this, the months are right. Anyhow, speak to the children of Israel. On the 10th of this month, every man shall take for himself a lamb according to the house of his father, a lamb for his household, and he's going to crucify it or sacrifice it on the 14th. This is the month of Passover, the first month. Let's go to Leviticus 23 and see if God's got this right. In Leviticus 23, this is where all the feast days of the Lord, the appointed times of the Lord are. On the 14th day of the first month at twilight is the Lord's Passover. Actually, that twilight has a different meaning. It would be 3 p.m. It's like between the evenings or something. I forget exactly how it's worded in the Hebrew. That's 3 p.m. That's the exact time that Messiah died on the cross. But you'll notice this is the first month. This is that first month. So this is right. So you count the months from there. And if you go down to Rosh Hashanah, the one, and Feast of Trumpets, the one that screams Rapture, that is on the 7th month. Okay. So no, this is not Rosh Hashanah. This is, because people are saying this is the month of Rosh Hashanah now. And the new year is also in the fall. How do we know that? Go to Leviticus 25. And a year of Jubilee is a new year. Correct? Yes. It just starts 10 days later on the atonement, Yom Kippur. But you will see that in the 15th year you shall be a jubilee to you, and it shall be, give me a second. And you shall cause the trumpet of the jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month. That's when the jubilee, as a year of jubilee, starts. So now the question is, with regard to this barley, how do we know whether or not it's a Abib? Well, there's a group in Israel called Deborah's Date Tree. This is a Facebook page, and I'll include a link to this in the comments or the description that I give. So what they're saying, and for 25 years, they have gone out to inspect the barley to look for new moons. They haven't even gone out to look for the new moon yet. They'll do that tonight in Israel. Of course, they're in Israel. And you have an article here about the barley that they went out to see, and it's quite a long article. And they go through the different fields in which they inspected. And I'm going to include a link to this Facebook page for you. The bottom line, the barley was not Aviv. It wasn't close, I don't think. And I'm not an expert on understanding exactly what they're saying. But it was carried out on March 7th. Okay. But what they're basically saying is that it's not Aviv yet. And they're saying you can go all the way until the 10th of this month to see whether or not the barley is Aviv. So I'm going to keep in touch with them. I'm going to keep watching their website and let you know what's going on. And the purpose of this, we set the first month based on the barley, and then we can count to the 7th month, and we will know what month Rosh Hashanah or the Rapture will be in this year. Thank you for watching, and may God bless you.